Kitchen Bros, Episode 9. John Scrudder's in the house, talking about Cerebus Kickstarter. Cue the music. Alright, and here we are, the Kitchen Bros Comic Book Podcast. I'm Mike Kitchen. I'm Blair Kitchen.
And I'm John Scrudder.
Yeah, there we go.
We're getting the hang of it. Okay.
So, yeah, well, it's been interesting. There's been a lot of the stuff going on with the Dave Sim Kickstarter campaign, and I guess you're the one that started all that off, right?
Yeah, I did.
So, how did all that come about? Because I know, like, just reading the webpage, it's been, like, it seems like Dave was kind of dragging his heels and not wanting to go into it. Was that the case, or did he just not understand what it was all about? Like, how did the whole thing happen?
Well, the whole thing started, honestly, about 4 years ago. Not the Kickstarter idea, but, you know, we're taking it back a little bit here. Yeah, Dave, as you guys know, Dave's a Luddite. You know, he doesn't do the computer stuff. So basically, I wanted to see some presence, some internet presence on the web with Aardvark Vanaheim stuff. And a few years ago, I was thinking about looking into getting Glamourpuss, but they didn't have anything online, you know. So I called Dave up and I told him, I said, hey, let's start a website. And that evolved into Cerebus TV, and I started, became his auctioneer for a while. And then, you know, we've always been trying to work on new ideas to generate some funds and to come up with some new creative projects. And then Kickstarter just seemed like the next logical step, but it took a lot of, you know, beating him around to get it done.
And yeah, for anybody that doesn't know, like Dave is, you know, pretty much he doesn't do anything with computers. I guess he just got one recently to do some typesetting on Glamourpuss, but he still does his mail. He calls it escargot mail.
Yeah.
And like doesn't even have any music in the studio or anything else. Like he's got rid of his TV, and there's a whole. I remember back when that was in Cerebus, where he was going through all his reasons for getting rid of the television, and says the computers are basically televisions with typewriters on them. And it was interesting because that's the first time those ideas kind of got into my head. And then there's been all these other successful authors who have had the exact same point of view. Like Chuck Palahniuk was talking about how productive he was once he threw his television in the garbage, and there's been a bunch of other people like that. Like both me and Blair gave up on the cable. We still have the boxes, but
well,
yeah,
I mean, you know, he was able to put out a monthly issue for quite some time, and he had a TV, you know, during that period of time. So I don't know if that one really holds much water.
Wait, do you watch a lot of TV?
I don't watch a lot of TV. No, I don't have cable myself, but I don't get a lot of work done either, though. So it's definitely.
Well, I found what I found is that, you know, I think I got rid of my actual cable. We pretty much had nothing for a little while until we got some rabbit ears and stuff. But I found that at first I was really productive, but then I started to use the computer more. And now it's funny, like say 6 years ago, it was probably about 6 years ago, maybe even longer, that we got rid of all our TV, and I hardly knew anyone that did that. Maybe it was longer. It was during the NHL lockout. I got rid of my satellite, and then just didn't get anything. But now I think more and more people are ditching the cable just because of everything's on the internet now. So it's hard to say if you don't have TV if that actually saves you time now. It's really like Dave Sim's theory about it just being a TV with a typewriter on it is actually more realistic now than when he said it, I think. So
yeah, I agree with the TV situation, but not with the internet situation, because his understanding, his concept of the internet, he just doesn't have one. The very first day that the Kickstarter campaign went off, he called me within the first 30 minutes, I think.
Yeah.
And want to know how it was going. I think we had 3 backers at $150, and he said, John, I'll be surprised if we get $600. When we don't get $600, I want you just to admit that it's over. It's done. There's nothing else we can do to be productive about this. Nobody cares. And I said, okay, I'll tell you what, if it doesn't hit $600, I'll tell you what, I won't call you again until we reach our $6,000 goal. And
It was
and he
3,000,
said, okay.
was it? Was it 6,000 or 3,000?
6,000.
6,000. 6,000. Oh, okay.
And I told him, I said, I'll leave you alone until we reach our goal. And he says, okay, but when we don't, just admit that it's over. And 9 hours later, I gave him a call and I said, hey, we're good to go. And he was very enthusiastic and excited about that.
Oh, yeah.
I noticed he was typing in all capitals.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Do typewriters have cap locks? Do they? Or
You know what? I don't know. I secretly suspect that he's a technical genius, and he's got like a bunch of servers mounted in his house and lots of
Yeah.
I just because it's.
I thought that was Gerhard.
What's that?
Yeah.
I thought that was Gerhard.
Yeah. Well,
in the van out back. It must all be out back because we
maybe it's like in Iron Man. It's
there.
like Jarvis, right? It's the.
He's got a.
It used to be Gerhard. Now he's got an AI server named Gerhard. No.
Yeah. He's got a secret basement. He's doing stuff. I mean, he's aware of the internet, but he doesn't understand the concept and how far-reaching it goes. So when I'm sending out the tweets or the Facebook posts or whatnot about the project, he doesn't understand that if I send something to Neil Gaiman, he's got 1 million followers that pick up on it and go, oh,
yeah.
Well, this is something Neil recommends.
Actually, the Neil Gaiman one, I've got his comment up here. That was one of my favorite ones that went out, where he's like, amazing, and he retweets the, mind a signal boost for Dave Sim of all people who has Kickstarter. And then Gaiman, I should clarify, I wish I could do Neil Gaiman's voice. I should clarify that I think it's amazing that Technophobe Dave is doing a Kickstarter, but it's also a good cause. But just the whole idea of, the fact that Dave is, completely, Luddite is, I guess, the word, with technology and doing the Kickstarter. But it seems like a lot of comments like that. Anyways, it always just makes me chuckle. But, we'd have, Dave would come over to our place for a barbecue every, maybe twice a year. But I remember he had that kind of attitude where it's sort of like what you were saying, where it's just kind of like, well, just kind of be ready if it's over, and nobody's paying attention and no one cares. It had that. It's like a very, I don't know what the
not defeatist, because
not defeatist.
He's extremely pessimistic.
Yeah, and
when it comes to his own work and his own, not his productivity, but his audience. He doesn't believe that they're out there really wanting to support this.
Yeah, I think it's kind of after the aftershock of the whole comics journal stuff in the 90s, and then the implosion of the market. And, I mean, there's a whole bunch of crazy stuff that's gone on over the last decade. And one of the things I was even talking to him about, how it's interesting when we go around to conventions, I did a thing in Jeff Seiler's Cerebus Readers in Crisis. Mm-hmm. So I'd have that on the table at most of the conventions we'd go to. And I was telling him the story how when we were in Toronto, everybody would walk by and say, wow, Cerebus, I love that comic. And it's like 100% positive. Maybe you'd get a couple people who would still be kind of towing the line from the comics journal back in the 90s. But for the most part, everybody was really enthusiastic about it. Then when we'd go to San Francisco, it was the opposite.
Stop by our table anyways.
What's that?
The people that would stop by our table, like the people who are into independent comics that, there's a lot of people that didn't even come by our table just because it's not Marvel. You get that as well.
Yeah. But just the fact that it's got the logo right on it, so they would see Cerebus and get a reaction. Yeah. But in San Francisco, there would be a lot of the Cerebus. Yeah, I did read that before he went crazy. It's like, really? You guys are actually out there like that? And then there'd be other places like SPX where it'd be a half and half split. But I've been really excited with the tweets going out about the Kickstarter campaign, how the majority of the stuff going out is a lot of, wow, Dave Sim helped me so much in my early career. Here's a retweet, or here's support. Here's my support towards it. Other people talking about the fact that the feat of making 300 independent issues, just how important that is and what a landmark it is in comics. Like, a lot of people are talking about that. And there's very few people saying I like Cerebus before he went crazy.
Yeah,
well, all these comments are in the comments of those people who I find I don't know. This is just what I've found is that a lot of the comic artists will say, yeah, he's really helped me. He did a great thing. That's an amazing feat. All that stuff. But then if you go in the comments of those comments, it's a lot of like fans or whatever that are like, yeah, until he went crazy, I just can't read that. And,
but you see, there's to me, it seems like that's a very small percentage, which is refreshing to read.
Well, it's a lot smaller than probably Dave thinks, I think.
I'd say based on what I've seen right now, it's about 80-20, 80 positive, 20 negative.
Yeah,
that's pretty good.
And I think that's really good. But I think the shameful thing about it is that separation of one person's creation and his ideas is the thing that people are missing out on. I mean, Cerebus as a whole, Dave Sim changed the face of the comics industry.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It didn't have anything challenging it. The Northampton Summit, the Creators' Bill of Rights. The 300 issues on a monthly basis, that's the kind of stuff that popped Marvel and DC up on their toes and made them say, hey, wait a minute, people can face us, and stare us down if they really want to.
Yeah.
And they kept trying to push it off, especially in the Comics Journal, too, that Dave was the exception to the rule. But, if you think about it, put out Possum every month, for the next 26 years. Guarantee you got the following.
I've thought about that. Yeah. Oh, I know. It's amazing. Well, what's amazing that he put himself in a position that he could do it and he stuck with it. And it's hard. It's hard doing the writing, doing the drawing. Like, I can't believe he lasted as long as he did doing that. That's like just a huge feat.
Well, yeah, he had the tenacity to drive forward. I think it was more of a, I said I was going to do this and stick to my word kind of thing.
For sure.
And that just says not just him about him as a creator or an author, but as a person too. That's something that a lot of people, you can't depend on people, to say, hey, I'm going to come over next weekend to help you move.
I know.
So,
and the fact, every business deal he did with Gerhard and everything like that, just it backs up everything that he says, and I respect him a lot for that. Even to the point where he still sends Gerhard percentage, like was it 3%?
I thought it was 4%.
4%, that even though he legally doesn't owe him anything, so
he paid off the remaining 40% shares of Aardvark Weinheim. I think that's all done now.
Yeah, he bought the company back.
Yeah.
So,
and he was saying how he said after when Kevin Eastman sold his share of the Turtles, that's back when he was thinking, it's like, well, I don't know if you can really do that, morally give away 100% of your share of the creation. There should always be some sort of residual just in case there is that billion-dollar movie deal or whatever it is that goes through. Like, you created this thing, you should get some sort of cut. So in his head, he, being the thinking man that he is, came up with that number. It's like, no, 4% seems about right, where that's that much you can't really give away. There should be that little sliver that you still have ownership over. And so then when the whole thing with Gerhard happened and he ended up buying back his share of the company, the fact that that 4% still goes to Gerhard, I thought that was pretty classy and smart. It would avoid a lot of these Siegel and Schuster cases and Kirby cases. Like, imagine Marvel was doing that to Kirby, gets that 4% of the Avengers movie or whatever it is.
Right, or more recently the Friedrich case with Ghost Rider.
Yeah, there's a lot of those cases.
It's sad to say because I know Chris Robinson just quit DC a little while ago. He was the writer for iZombie, Mike Allred illustrating. And it's funny because Dave's arguments from 30 years ago, are just as relevant today as they were then.
For sure,
paid kind of scale, but they still treat them like, hey, our book is selling 1 million copies, but here's your $1,000 even when you were selling 100 copies. It doesn't matter how much the sales increase. The cut's still going to go to the publisher.
Yeah.
As I say, wearing my DC Superman shirt. Yeah.
That's all right.
Down with mainstream.
Yeah.
you still have a polybagged Death of Superman?
What's that?
Do you still have a polybagged Death of Superman?
Who doesn't? You know,
Yeah,
everyone's got that in a black bag, hoping that it'll be worth something again one day.
Hoping that everyone gives up and throws theirs out.
Exactly. Everyone's like, "Oh, this is worthless."
Yeah. I'll give it to my kids to read. I'm like, nah.
Yeah. I'm
Although
the one that kept it.
Yeah. Back in the old days, they printed a lot of those comics. They all just got thrown out when kids moved out of their parents' houses. So, we got about 5 of them.
The whole all that stuff that you were talking about earlier with the Northampton Summit and the creators' rights and all that kind of stuff. I remember the very first Cerebus comic I got was the one where I forget the number. I should know that one off by heart, but the one where he's from Mothers and Daughters. I think it was number 16 where Cerebus is sleeping and there's the checkerboard. He's holding the doll. But I remember getting that one for the first time and then getting to the back matter stuff where he was getting into all that creators' rights stuff. And then in back issues, I ended up getting the speech that he gave. What was it, to Diamond or to the distributors?
Yes.
So all that stuff hit me at the same time. It was just like this atom bomb of information going off in my brain and thinking, like, right there, it's like, okay, there's something to all this. If I'm going to do a comic book, it's going to be kind of following these guidelines. Like, even to the point where I did that Spy Guy Strawman crossover with David Brandstetter, so we co-created a character and figured it's like, okay, this is a good prototype kind of test case to see if you can kind of follow the creative manifesto that Dave came up with creating a character, to avoid Spawn, Angela, Neil Gaiman, Todd McFarlane type situation, but just to try and put some of these ideas to the test and see, just as an experiment, just a creative thought experiment. But
that was interesting. The Twitter conversation between Eric Larson and Neil Gaiman recently about Angela. Yeah, that was just little where I read it, but I don't know how it started. Was it Dan Slott and Eric Larson talking between about Eric Larson made something about if you he doesn't think that. Or creators should get their. We'll pull it up. But creators should get the credit for their creations, but not if it was something that doesn't take part in it, like doesn't stand on its own. And then I guess Neil Gaiman was tagged on that, and he's like, "Oh, so you're glad that I got Angela then?" And Eric Larson was going back saying, just like, "Well, not really. I mean, she doesn't really stand on it." I'm paraphrasing, of course, but doesn't really stand on her own.
Have you guys met Eric Larson?
Only briefly. I haven't actually had
like a WonderCon, I think it was.
Yeah,
he's a really nice guy, right?
Yeah.
But if you've never met him and you've only read his tweets, he seems like a real friggin' jerk.
Yeah. Well, I found when I met him, he's a really nice guy, but he wasn't super approachable, so I didn't really have like a conversation. So I talked to him a little bit. I gave him some comics, and he was very, very polite and very, very nice. But I mean, he keeps trying as you talk to him, and but I've always really admired Eric Larson's.
To me, his attitude seems that it's like, all I want to do is just make some comic books. That's kind of. It's like, I don't want to deal with all this other crap. I don't want to listen to this. Just let me make my comic book.
Yeah, he's a consummate professional. When I've met him a couple of times and interviewed him, and he's just really nice. He's just a really friendly guy. But when I'm reading his tweets, I feel like I'm reading that high school kid that hides behind the shadows and says things. So I started having a little tweet war with him, as a matter of fact.
Did you?
Uh-oh.
It was something about pirating comics specifically.
Okay.
And,
yeah.
Yeah, it was a recent one that went back and forth, but I just felt like this is not the same guy I've met before. It's the first time I've experienced, because I don't really like computers that much either. I use it for...
Me neither. I sit on them all day.
Yeah, I use it for email, eBay, and the Kickstarter campaign, of course, and just, but I can't consume my time with it. So it was my first real interaction with talking to somebody, in the internet environment that wasn't how they were in real life. And I'm
Really?
sure I'm going to get flack for this too. But I mean, like I said, Eric's a really nice guy, love him to death. But it was just
I just
strange.
think-
So what
I just
happened?
think short little tweets. It's hard to I don't know. He just says what he thinks, and it goes out there. I don't.
To me, that's
it's
the
hard
way
to
I
get
see.
a deep conversation on Twitter. Like it's very, very tough without coming out kind of short and
Well, especially
arrogant or
with
whatever.
Eric Larson, where he just seems very blunt. Like, it's just
Oh, he's-
straight
yeah.
to the point. This is what I think. Blah.
Yeah.
That's it.
I agree.
So what was the... Do you want to get into it? What was the whole discussion about, or any interesting points out of it?
Not really. To be honest, it was right at the beginning of the campaign where I was trying to push the project along.
Okay.
And I don't even know what we're talking about.
With the Eric Larson, the tweet war.
Oh no, yeah, you
Yeah.
brought up Eric Larson because the Neil Gaiman thing, and he made a comment. And I just remembered Eric Larson, but you know what? Not even relevant.
Okay. Yeah.
All right, reel it back then.
I get sidetracked sometimes. I apologize.
Yeah,
That's
that's
good.
all right.
I like conversations go off the rails.
It's
entertaining.
But
So-
working. Go ahead.
No, I was just thinking, like, bringing it back to the Kickstarter campaign. I mean, because it's something that I've always been interested in. Like, it seems like a really, really good tool to use. I just the Dave Sims one that you set up for him seems to be doing really, really well. I'm just wondering, like, how much pre-planning went into that?
A couple of days.
How long did it? Was it just a couple days? Was it that quick?
No, I mean, the forethought had been there for a while. Ever since I saw, I think David Peterson of MouseGuard suggested Jeremy Bastian's Cursed Pirate Girl when he was doing a Kickstarter project. And I was really intrigued by the entire concept. And that was a couple of years ago. And I've since backed a few projects. Transmetropolitan came out with an art book, Breath from Bloom County. The Comic Art Museum came out with one. And I picked that up, and I was like, "Wow, this is really good." But it wasn't until The Order of the Stick, the webcomic that made $1.2 million, that I thought, then I thought this is a way to do it, a really good way to do it. And of course, Amanda Palmer as well recently. Congratulations to her.
Yeah.
So the preparation for it was actually really difficult because. For two reasons. One, I'm working with Dave, and two, the amount of stuff that we had to put into our pledge incentives was limited, and it kind of created a problem because I could only build so many different packages and incentives because he only had a limited number of such and such and such. And I wanted to ensure that we had the best Kickstarter project. I looked at all the other comic ones. I looked at all the other Kickstarter projects, and I said, what can we offer to make ours better? Lower price, better stuff, more items, just kind of throw it all out there. And when I realized that the $10,000 pledge was the limit, I was like, let's just throw caution to the wind. Hey, Dave's going to come to your house, paint a mural on your wall.
Was that your idea?
Yeah, how many of those incentives were your ideas, and how many was Dave's?
I think. Well, I put all the packages together.
Okay.
So pretty much everything. His ended at the head sketches.
Okay.
And then I just started pulling out all the stops, and I was like, "Hey, Dave, you don't mind, but you might have to do an 11 by 17 with 3 characters." And he's like, "I don't really want to do." I'm like, well, 750 might change your mind.
Yeah.
So he's like, "Yeah, okay, I think I can do that." And then once that first day rolled over, he was like, "Yeah, whatever, man, add whatever you want, do whatever."
I love the coming to your house and having dinner. There was one that you can go to his house and one that he would come to yours. Is that what it was?
4,500, you can go up to Kitchener and hang out with him for the day. And
have lunch with him?
Have lunch with him. And then $10,000, he'll come and spend the weekend, have a slumber party at your house.
That's great. Now, what's the highest donation you've had so far? What's the
highest so far has been 2,500.
wow.
I won't release the information, obviously, but
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
like everybody's watching, it's like, who is
Yeah.
it?
No. Just some guy.
But
Okay.
you know,
So yeah,
And that's
25
for an 11 by 17 black and white inked full figure of 2 of your favorite Cerebus characters, and then a whole bunch of other stuff that goes on for like a paragraph.
yeah, we just.
I mean, going through the incentives, I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. I wish I had like.
Here's the thing: the incentives. I made the mistake early on, and I don't mean it in a bad way, but you know, I wanted Dave to take a look at it when he goes down to the coffee shop or whatever to look at the internet, and I gave him access to the account so he could check it out. And I came home from work the day after that, and the pledge incentives were like, short little novels. And I had to go in and cut everything down because I was like, the whole first pledge, I had to scroll down a page and a half just to finish it. So I had to cut everything down. I had to cut the story down a little bit too to make it a little more presentable. Because, Dave's a very smart guy. He's very sincere and very generous with his time, of course, but he can talk. And
you have to make a 6,000-page comic book.
Yeah, and the problem with that, though, is I keep trying to remind him, like, we're dealing with people, in general on the internet who want access of what they want now. They don't want to wait. There is a little patience on the internet. I think that, and it's not insulting to people. I mean, our lives are just moving faster. We're communicating quicker. Our tweets are only 140 characters. We're trying to get the information processed as quickly as we can. So I had to shorten that down a bit. And then once I talked to Dave last time, he's like, you know what? Just, do what you think is right. And when it fails, then I can blame you. And I said, okay, that's fine.
Then what happens when he gets $30,000 over his goal? Then what happens?
What does he blame?
But strangely enough, there is no more blame. But definitely, he's definitely very appreciative, very happy. He's not surprisingly, he's shocked by the reaction. Because we know how he thinks. He just he doesn't regard himself as highly as his fans do and his audience does.
That's one thing that's kept me from doing a Kickstarter things so far. Timing's not right, but it is that
an audience before we do anything. But.
No, there was a email going around about all like the 20 worst Kickstarter campaigns.
I saw it was hysterical.
It was so depressing to to read. So I'm like, yeah, that would be me. That's
looking for the 2012 list with Possum at number 2, right under Spy Guy.
One backer,
well, see,
mom.
That's people's own fault for not investigating what it is. I mean, look, if you got no friends and you live in your basement and you just do a Kickstarter project,
and your idea sucks.
You're not going to sell anything. I'm sorry. But if you've got a Facebook account, or maybe you go outside and talk to people or something, you might have a shot at getting, some backers.
Well, it's amazing how much access you have. Like, it's an amazing thing. Like, just, I guess people just look at the Kickstarter campaigns, right? And it's almost like they shop. It's not all like, oh, I know this guy who's doing a Kickstarter campaign, so you go there. I mean, it is set up so you can actually browse through all the different projects, right?
And I like the fact that it is an actual campaign where it's not. Whereas, say, like the Cerebus TV, where it's donations and there's head sketch. No, it's very passive. Whereas with a Kickstarter, it really is like a call to arms, where like, I'm trying to meet this goal. There's a set time, and then the troops will rally behind you. Especially in the case of someone like Dave, where he's been doing this for so long and he's been helping so many people. Like, the hundreds and hundreds of artists that he's helped over the years. I mean, it's phenomenal. So. Of course, people are going to, try and back him or, show some support.
Yeah,
right?
the Bill Willingham one kind of came out of the blue too. He sent me a very nice email, gave me a quote for the page. But of course, my two favorite ones were early on from Colleen Duran and Denny Lubert. And,
yeah, Denny's on board, which is pretty neat.
Yeah, it was really exciting, and that made me, even more motivated to really get out there and just push this. And it is like a call to arms. I feel like I'm at war, plodding along, gathering the troops, and saying, hey, we've got 20 days, and we're going to push this thing, and straight to the end. We've made our goal, which is fantastic. But the campaign's not over, and I can't let up. I can't be less aggressive than I am now.
15 more graphic novels to go, right?
Exactly. Right now, and that's what the misconception is, like, oh, he's been funded, we're going to get all the poem books. I'm like, well, technically we can do 6 right now. That's the most that we can put out right now. But if we reach 96,000, then everybody's going to get their phone book list. So
you thought about putting that as a reward? Like so right now everything is
you know what?
society.
I didn't even think about that.
Because that could be interesting to try and meet the other goals. Is if you have, say there's 6 of them that can be paid for now. If you put those 6 as how much is it for? Here, I got this up. $15 is for the digital edition, right?
Yeah, hold on. I'm writing down Steel Mike Kitchen's idea.
Yeah.
So then you got High Society up there. If you get, Volume 1 and then, the next 3 after that.
Well, originally we were thinking like, okay, we'll do this and if it succeeds, we'll do Church and State 1 and 2 and Jocka's Story. But because it went so fast, so quickly at 30,000, I was like, well, I think we can skip a couple of these projects and move right along. So as a stretch reward, I think that would be a good idea.
Just because then people, they've put their $15 in for High Society, and it's like, well, I want Church and State, so let's put the extra $30 in and get all 3 of them. Or it might be a way to hit the next tier.
If we like, say reach $100,000, everybody that's backed the project, you all get a digital copy of all the books, which I think is a great idea.
Yeah,
they don't have to bump their pledges up. We just have to get more people to pledge.
Right.
Yeah.
Who's that guy? Is Jerry Lewis? Is he the one that does the telethons?
Yeah, didn't he? They all did the telethons, didn't they? Seen some Frank Sinatra ones. So. One thing that would always worry me about the Kickstarter stuff. I have a friend who did one, and they were quite successful, and she actually once they met their goal, and then they had to actually honor all the
like shit.
What do you call them, the incentives or whatever? They were saying like they were mailing out books and stuff, but the cost of shipping was as much as the profit on the book. So it's like really it was just kind of it was just so much that they're actually losing so much.
That's how we do comics, Blair.
Yeah, I know.
Right?
Well, I know, but you got to really be like, especially when you're doing like actual physical books and stuff like that. Like you got to make sure the shipping charges don't outweigh the pledges and
I think about it, the digital comic. That's easy.
Well, the digital comic, yeah. I mean, you got the prints and stuff like that, but
that's the genius of it right there. There's no limit on the digital, so
that's Once it's
you pledge $15 all day long, but word to everybody out there, no, we didn't take shipping costs into account for this. Like I said, and you guys know too, Dave is just stupid generous. He will just hey, whatever, you paid $100 for this picture, I'll mail it out to Singapore. Oh, whoops! It cost me $150 to FedEx it. Yeah. he's that selfless. And it does hurt him in the long run because a lot of people don't understand it, especially like I put out to Jimmy Palmiotti and he said, hey, the project's already been funded. I'm not going to push this. I only help people that need it. And it got me to thinking. I'm like, well, independent comic publishers or people that are working in indie comics, that's their job. That's it. Once it stops, once issue 300 came and went, people weren't paying him, regularly anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
He doesn't have medical. Well, you guys live in Canada. You guys go to the free doctors, and they just
Yeah.
whatever. But
We still pay
I'm
for it
sure,
in a socialist kind of way.
and
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
sure it's
you
not.
pay
I'm
for
sure
it.
it's not that great, anyways. So I don't know.
Yeah. No,
The
no, I totally.
The Canadians sneered. But that's it though. I mean, once it's done, it's not like he's sitting on a pile of cash going, I'm the king of the independent comics medium. It's all hail the king is dead, and unless he starts producing again, he's got to try to figure out ways to make money just like the rest of us.
Yeah, and it seems like the whole direct market is a really tough place right now. If you look in comics, it seems the most successful things are the webcomic people seem to be doing well. Like you look at the guys like Penny Arcade, and they're just destroying.
Yeah.
And then you got guys like Mark Miller who are doing movie deals. Like that seems to be the really big successes in comic books. But if you look at direct market, it doesn't seem like there's a lot that's really going on in there. And I know, like I've talked with Dave before, and you see how financially strained things are, and especially when he was going through that period of paying back Gerhard. So you would think, like in my fanboy brain, you have somebody who owns all of his own material, has been doing it all himself. Once you get paid for it, it all goes to you. You would think, wow, he'd be king of the world. But I mean, just the reality of comic books these days, I mean, that's far from the case. Like, it's like you're really scraping by.
It's not just that, though, but, I mean, two examples. One would be the Kickstarter campaign. First off, 10% of that, goes, 5% goes to Kickstarter, 5% goes to Amazon. So that's 10% gone right there.
Yeah.
And then the other thing, you could be shooting yourself in the foot, too, because the higher it goes, you're taxed on that,
That's right.
You're taxed on all that,
Yeah. And in the independent, like I know Neil Gaiman had suffered the same problem too. Sometimes it's based off of your annual income. So if you make $1 million one year and then you only end up making $300,000 the next year, you're still paying off on the taxes the previous year. So it's not steady and consistent. That's why people, they assume, but they don't see behind the scenes that there's a little bit more going on financially than is perceived. You see Neil Gaiman walking down the red carpet, but then he's got to create some other characters for a comic book that he doesn't necessarily want to do just to pay, next month's mortgage.
Right.
Yeah. Though he has a nice library. I don't feel too bad for him. He's got a pretty sweet library.
I mean, yeah. but then again, and I have to be fair. That could be said for Dave too, though. I mean, nobody twisted his arm to pull a Bill Watterson. I mean, he could do a movie.
Yeah. If Dave did another comic in the the same not style as Cerebus, but like an actual story that I think it would do amazing. Because all the stuff he's done or post Cerebus, I guess, has been more like the Archives and Glamour Puss and Jude and Haas. Like they're very, very different than very non-mainstream stuff.
The thing that's amazing about it still, though, is just that's what he wants to do.
Oh yeah,
there's something about, which is why I always like these kind of indie comics where it's the artist just coming up with whatever they want to do. It's like he wants to do a photoreal style like Al Williamson using glamour models. And he's doing it. Like, that's amazing.
Well, I think it's awesome. Yeah. No, I think it's awesome. I'm just saying, I would love another,
would he put that up as a webcomic, do you think?
It's going to.
It is, eh? I think that would be great.
What is?
I don't know if this is exclusive news, and I don't even know if I'm supposed to be talking about it. But
you heard it right here, folks, on the
podcast.
First,
but
take that,
Newsarama.
Yeah. That's what's going to happen, actually. It's going to start being released digitally, one page at a time.
Oh, that's awesome.
Because I think that would be an interesting way for it to try and find an audience. Like, if it's not working through the direct market, if there's a way for... Because, I mean, there's a very small percentage of people that actually go into a brick-and-mortar comic book store. And most of those people are, unless you're in a very, like a indie-friendly store, it's mostly people going in for their superhero Marvel DC fix, it seems like. So to put it up on the web so that now you're targeting the whole world, I mean, there's got to be people out there. Like even like Darwin Cook's wife, I know, she loves Glamour Puss. When we were out there for the last signing, like I guess she was one of the biggest fans, and Dave was just ecstatic about that. So, like, there's people out there that this kind of stuff would appeal to. It's just a matter of finding them.
Oh, yeah.
Well, yeah, but it's like you said, though, it's great, he's doing what he wants to do. You can do what you want to do all the way to the poorhouse, I mean...
Well, that's what I am doing. The process of doing that right now.
I mean...
I do struggle with that. Sorry. Me and Mike have had a lot of conversations privately about that, is how to
living in the poorhouse?
Yeah.
We've had a lot of conversations how we're going to decorate it.
Yeah. Feces everywhere. No.
What? That wasn't my conversation.
I was just thinking the outhouse. No. No, at what point, like, because it is great doing comics, you have so much freedom. How to manage that, the artist in you, and how to manage the editor kind of in you, and give people what they want, but at the same time not lose your artistic integrity. And there is a bit of both. I mean, I think if you want to make a living at it, I think you do have to not compromise, but things on like formats, like we have this debate all the time about webcomics. How
I think it is kind of an all or nothing thing. I mean, if you want to be able to produce something on a regular schedule, you've got to put that time into it. I had a partial scholarship to Savannah College of Art and Design, and that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a cartoonist. That was my lifelong dream. I was either going to work for Mad Magazine or go be an animator at Disney or something. But to pay for the rest of my scholarship, I was going to join the Army for 4 years. So I ended up joining the Army. That went pretty well. I stayed for another 6 years. That went pretty well. So I just stayed in, much longer than I expected. And by the time I got out, I hadn't been keeping up with my art on a regular basis. So I had to make a compromise where my comfortable medium is being involved with the artistic community, helping the artistic community, talking to them, doing what I can. But I have to hold down a regular job because that's what the military instilled in me over the last, 13 years was, this is the kind of productivity that I can do that's going to keep me, remaining with a roof over my head and food in my stomach. As much as I'm not the idealistic young person that I was, where I could, reasonably stay in a friend's house with very little food and very little creature comforts. But I think that if you're just coming out of the gate and you're okay with doing that, I'd say just hit it hard and just keep on running with it.
Oh, so yeah. Are you still doing comics now? Do you do any drawing? I know you sent me the character to use in the little bubble on the bottom, but...
Yeah, I still draw. It's always been a passion of mine. It's something that'll never go away. I was never really into Marvel or DC. It's a very strange beginning that I had. The first creator I really spoke with was Dave back in '94. And actually, the very first issue of Cerebus that I bought was issue 186.
Okay.
It was when I was a little kid. I met Stanley in John Romita Sr. At a comic book shop, and I had my first appearance of Carnage signed, and that was all very fun and exciting. But I didn't really understand the importance of who they were at the time, and I didn't have to stand in line and pay $250 a package to see them. And then I met Dave, and then right after I met Dave, I was in a comic shop, and I found Bob Burton's Flaming Carrot issue 31 from Dark Horse. And once I read that book, I was like, oh, these are the kind of comics that I'm supposed to be reading. I didn't understand, because I've been being force-fed all this crap off of the shelves at bookstores or in drugstores or at the gas station that I got to be reading Batman, Superman, Spider-Man, X-Men, and all that other garbage.
Yeah.
But once I read Flaming Carrot, I was like, oh, these are my books. I didn't... Okay,
that's the exact same reaction I had. same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's where my art really stemmed from. I'd always been drawing as a kid, but it didn't really fit anywhere except like Mad Magazine, more Drucker kind of style stuff, and then it kind of morphed in that. So yeah, I started a comic strip in high school called Intelligent Life about an alien who believes to be a superior form of intelligence lands on Earth, and then through funny misconceptions about what he thinks to be right, hilarity ensues, blah blah blah. It's kind of immature and childish, but I just never been a really good writer. So I was always kind of waiting for my writer partner team up thing to come along. Never happened. And then in 2009, all of my original artwork was contaminated from mercury spill, and then
Oh, wow.
everything in my house had to be thrown out. It was all what is it called? What was it called? Condemned. My house was condemned.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What
So
spilled?
5 pounds of mercury.
What do you do with 5? What's that from? 5 pounds of mercury. Just had it in a glass.
Military thing.
Yeah.
It was in a jar.
Wow.
So it doesn't matter why.
That's almost like a Eric Larson house burned down story. Like,
Oh, yeah.
there should be a collection of that. That would be a great anthology, wouldn't it? Just people who have lost all their artwork through fires and mercury spills and
Hey,
cosmic
eventually,
rays and gamma radiation and everything.
that's how
else.
our Death of Superman will be worth money,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly.
Eventually, everyone's going to go through a mercury spill or
Well,
cat urine,
the-
something.
The funny thing is, I had the mercury jar on top of my bookshelf, and I'd just gotten back from watching Paranormal Activity, right? And at some point in time during the movie, they had mentioned demonology, like this guy's a demonologist. And when I got home, I was like, that's not a real thing. You can't, that's stupid. No one's a demonologist. So I started looking up, what a demonologist is, and sure enough, it's a real thing. People actually have degrees in demonology and stuff, which is absurd. And I'm reading about what it is to have like a paranormal demonologist activity and all this other stuff, and it's like furniture and objects moving by themselves. And no joke, my bookshelf just fell over. And
Really?
yeah, mercury spilled everywhere. I was like, oh. And in my infinite wisdom, I was like, I'll use a vacuum cleaner to clean it up. And because I'm not a biology guy. I don't know about chemicals and stuff. I just keep them in jars. So the beater bar on the vacuum cleaner turned it into gas, into vapors. And I had my AC unit running, so it got sucked up into the vents and contaminated my whole house. And I ended up with mercury poisoning. I was mercury poisoned for 9 months, and my house got condemned, and everything was ruined and thrown out.
Holy smokes. So how do you get rid of mercury poisoning?
You have to go through chelation therapy. It's kind of like chemotherapy.
Really?
It draws the mercury through the blood cells or something. It's not fun. I also contaminated my friend's house and her cat and her couch. And all
Because
sorts of things.
they borrowed your vacuum, or did no? It was just,
No. The state messed up. When they came to my house, they were like, go stay at a friend's house. But they didn't decontaminate me or anything.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
As a matter of fact, I drove my car over there. I had to have my car seats thrown out. The EPA came to my house and got involved in the whole thing. And they actually offered me a job working with the EPA after it was all done. But again, I don't have a degree in, whatever. But I was still very thankful that they offered me the job because I was seriously looking for some new employment. I was like, oh, this is terrible.
Wow.
And
what was your job? Cleaning mercury spills, or
actually, I would be going to advanced sites and doing surveys on the areas, like an advanced survey site kind of team, and checking the place out.
Do you get any superpowers from this? This is something you could maybe have.
I did get
like
a superpower.
the ability to turn into mercury or something.
Well, I had the ability to lose 30 pounds in like a period of 2 weeks, which was awesome.
Yeah.
You know.
I'm like,
The John Scrudder weight loss
invisible
plan.
woman.
Is that going to be the next Kickstarter? Have you talked
But
to Dave about any of this stuff? Did you
I can
tell
relate
Dave
to
this
that.
story? I can just imagine, like, because I know the way Dave draws connections with things. Where I remember when he fell down and chipped his tooth, he said it's kind of like, "Yep, that was God punching me in the face with the world."
Yeah.
Kind of, or,
With the world, I like that. He punched me in the face with the
Dave, you know what? To be honest with you, I don't think we spoke about that. However, no,
that would be a
you know,
fascinating conversation.
we did speak about it. It was sometime he helped me out, but there was a lot of outstretched hands, and this is what also initially got me into helping other people was Bob Burden. He sent me all his clothes from the '70s, and you know, I
Wow.
did, like green pants, big, you know, because I had no clothes, you know. So Jim Steranko sent me some clothes. Steve Ditko. And Paul Chadwick signed some concrete books and sent them to me. Bob Burns sent me some Flaming Carrot books. Larry Martyr, he sent me some Bean World stuff. You know, everybody was really, really nice.
Wow.
And I was like, this is the kind of community, the independent comic community that this is what I love. Because, you know, I mean, you know, Stan Lee wasn't coming to my house. But, you know, Steve Ditko didn't come to my house either. But he did send me a box of clothes.
Steve Ditko sent you.
Yeah, I've got his sweaters. Dick Giordano, before he died, you know, he passed on some money, you know, for you know, a donation. I was really, really touched, almost to the point of, you know, being unmanly and crying, and you know, which happened about the third day when I realized that I just lost, you know, 30 years worth of collecting comics and items and stuff.
Wow.
And,
now, how did they all find out about it? Like, how did that come about?
Okay, well, when the mercury spilled, I kind of just looked at it for a little while, and I was like, well, I know that this is not safe. I know that there's something not safe about mercury. I don't know everything about it. I know I played with it when I was a kid, but I know that it's not safe to have it laying all over your house. So I went online to look up, like, what are you supposed to do during a mercury spill? Like, call 911, they'll have someone come. So I called 911. They had their version of the EPA people come out and check it out. And they said, this is the worst mercury spill in North Carolina history.
Really?
Yeah. So they had to call the EPA in. And there's a whole thing on the EPA site, like, this is the dumbest thing you can do. And the second dumbest thing was I had two other roommates, and the EPA is like, you're gonna have to find somewhere to stay. And we're like, we're gonna be fine. So we slept in the house for a couple of nights, getting mercury poison, you know, and stuff like that. Not the smartest thing to do. I found out quickly. And, but you know.
From the internet.
There's pictures on my Facebook of the whole EPA incident with them tearing my house apart, throwing away my Madman prints. They're all in their suits.
We're gonna put that up on screen.
Oh yeah,
it'll be part of the show.
Yeah. It was terrible. The only person that, you know, Mike Allred, and it seems kind of weird for me to say this, but I started a list of people that didn't respond to my Mercury, you know, call for help. I was like, okay, you know, these people didn't, you know, respond to me. So I confronted Mike Allred at Baltimore a couple of years ago. I was like, hey, I wrote to you. I told you about this. He's like, oh, that's crazy. I can't believe everything I read. I'm like, well, it happened. And Mike Allred and Laura are so sweet. They're just the nicest couple. He spent some time, did a really nice sketch for me.
Wow.
And, you know, just super friendly. I think that's the best
It doesn't
thing.
surprise me that Mike Allred would get some crazy letters, though.
No, that's true.
Yeah.
Actually, the one that was most suspicious was Paul Chadwick. He was like, hey, look, my eye fell out last year. And you know, not many people did, so I need some sort of, you know, evidence of this. And I was like, okay. So I sent him the link and the picture. He's like, Jesus, God, you know, I'm so sorry. And even Dick Giordano, before he died, he's like, it seems like, you know, both of us are trying to race towards the finish line. He's like, but I got some years up on you, so at least let me get there before you. And everybody was real real fun about it, real nice about it. Jeff Darrow, he signed my one of his original artworks to the Mercury Man. Mike Allred kind of taglined with that. And it's been a fun ride, but knowing Dave, all this has been possible through Dave Sim. So I owe, everything in my comics experience to Dave. It wouldn't have happened without him. And it all just happened on a chance meeting in 1994 during a comics art forum when he was outside smoking a cigarette, and I was like, hey, and totally lying too. I'm like, because I never read Cerebus. I was like, I love Jocka's story. It's terrific. I never read it.
All those words.
And he tells me about it. He's like, yeah, I wrote that in reverse and this. I'm like, I know, it's genius. I had no clue what it was about. All I knew was that he had a pen and I had a notebook, and that was my first ever head sketch that I got.
Wow.
Now resides in a 6-foot hole somewhere covered in cement.
Yeah.
So I'm protected from crazy.
Well, that is some pretty amazing. Like that's why I do like the indie comics community, and it's just nice to hear stories like that. Yeah.
And you know what? It's part of the, like, as an independent artist, like a publisher, it's like I have boxes of comics here, and there's lots of times where if someone else owned those comics, I probably wouldn't be as generous. But because you just don't have it, right? And I think that's one of the best things about doing them yourself is that, I mean, my kids' friends come over, I can have some comics. You send them home with some stuff. Like, it's just great to be able to be generous like that. You can do a talk at a school, and you can give everyone comic books, and it's great because you have, as a self-publisher, they're your books. You have all this. You have the warehouse of stuff.
I think it is important to be generous and all that. And then the people that are generous, it's nice to give a little bit back. And that's why I like this whole Kickstarter campaign that you're doing.
Yeah, and it wasn't just that, but it was Bob Burden specifically. When I was in Germany, I was stationed in Germany. I ordered the new hardcover edition of The Carrot, and because it claimed to have a new story in it. Mm-hmm. And when I got it, it didn't. And I was just irate. And I tracked Bob down, found his phone number, called him, and I demanded a refund. I was like, this is garbage, dude. This is insane. And he's like, whoa, hey, I'm sorry. And I'm like, it's okay. He's like, well, just meet me down at Dragon Con. I'll give you your money back. I'm like, don't even worry about it, dude. I sent it to Dave Sim. He said he didn't have any of the Carrot stories, so I just sent it to him. So don't worry about the refund. He says, well, what can I do? I'm like, you know what? I don't remember. I don't even know how the hell we ended up hanging out, but I ended up hanging out at his house one weekend in Atlanta, which, if you guys haven't hung out with Bob Byrne,
I haven't, no.
It's strange.
I've only seen, wasn't that a Cerebus TV episode? They had footage and pictures of Dave Sim at Bob Burden's house? Or?
Yes.
I've seen Bob Burden's house somehow, and I think it was through, it might have been Cerebus TV.
The very first thing I saw when I walked into his house was a 3-tiered fake plastic chocolate cake. And that set the whole tone for Bob Burden's house. And then the next thing I saw was a 10-foot tall, encased in glass rattlesnake. And so I was like, okay.
No way.
But what happened was, I told Bob, I was like, Bob, your comic was the one that got me into this thing. So, I don't mind so much that you did this hardcover edition that I didn't like, which was basically the trade paperbacks with a new hardcover. And I said, but, what can I do to help you? So I started working with him. And that's how the one of the auctions came around, was selling some of the Cerebus 104 pages.
Oh, right. Okay.
And I will be doing a Kickstarter campaign with him after this one. And waiting on you guys to chip in, too, because I'd like to do your guys'. But here's the thing, though. Speaking of generosity, that's why I started the Behind the Panels page, too.
Yeah,
because
and that all started with the Cerebus TV stuff, didn't it? Didn't you
Cerebus TV transmorgified, to borrow from Bill Watterson there. It was not what I had originally intended it to be.
Okay.
Cerebus TV was going to be Cerebus.com, where it was going to be a central hub where you could buy all the Aardvark Van Heim stuff. and Dave Sim would have a web presence.
Right.
Yeah.
And then it changed, and I went and did some interviews, and he's like, let's put some interviews on, have these clips, and then it turned into a TV show.
Right. Yeah.
A lot of problems with it. I'm not going to go into it, but what I took away from it was the interviews. I love talking to the creators, and I wouldn't have had that opportunity to flirt with me without going by like, I know Dave Sim. Hello. Let me interview you. Because everybody knew Dave, so it opened the door for me to meet these creators. And the first two I kind of latched onto were David Peterson and Jeremy Bastian. And they were just easygoing guys, in their early 30s, like myself, and just chit-chatting about stuff. And I was like, this is stuff that I'm really, really interested in. So when I started getting books, I was like, well, I want to do reviews on my site, but people are giving, they're being generous. I want to be generous too. I'm not going to placate people. I'm going to be honest with my reviews from an objective standpoint, but I do want to promote the work that people are putting out. So I got, Matthew Ingram sent me his Robot Jones, which is on my readers list. I supported Max Blink's, Blink, Max Ink's Blink.
Great.
Yeah, that was the last Kickstarter campaign I pitched in on, was that one.
I helped that one too. And then Brian John Mitchell's the Little Tiny Books.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Actually.
Yeah, and then Oliver Simonson. Oliver Simonson sent me his Zap, Captain Zap. So
cool.
Pretty stoked about that. But I don't have any Possum or Spy Guy. So.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you don't have. Oh,
we'll send one to the Mercury Man, a value pack.
Yeah.
Well, I saw that on Brandstetter's, and that's the other thing. David Brandstetter designed my banner for the website. I supported his campaign, and I got a really nice piece too. Can you see the folder? I got a really nice piece because I opted for the original artwork package. And I ended up with this really lovely piece that I just wanted to show. I don't know. We don't do that on this show. But
show and tell.
It's the nice space piece.
Oh, nice.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Wow.
So what's that done in? Is that
That's
is that painted?
Yeah. Yeah, you
good
went ahead
job.
and hand-painted that Bam Mammer Jammer.
Good job, Mr. Brandstetter.
Yeah.
And I supported his Kickstarter, so I got his books and I reviewed his Volume 1, Point of Origin, and I did a review on Max Inc.'s So It Goes, So It Is, So what? So something.
Say what?
Whatever the first volume is. So It Goes, I think. And then after that, that's when people started saying like, "Hey, can we toss you a book?" I'm like, "Yeah, of course. I'll read anything. I love to look at all this stuff."
Yeah.
I think it's
So Far is the one, and
So Far.
So
Yes.
So
And I love. And I'm even in the Waka Waka Kolchaka, as a matter of fact.
Are you in that one?
Yeah. Right. There.
Ah, nice.
And that's my girlfriend.
Nice. She's
Yeah.
over the side there somewhere, isn't she? I heard her voice earlier.
Yeah, she's here too. She's rolling around on the floor.
Just poke your head in and say hi.
They want you to say hi, honey. Okay. Stick your head in the say. But I didn't.
Hey. Hello.
That's Melanie.
Oh, that's Melanie. Hello.
She's actually the brains behind the operation. The whole Behind the Panels website, I don't know how to set a website up.
Yeah.
I don't know how to do
So you're just the middleman between her and Dave Sim, are you?
that. Yeah, pretty much.
Just-
And she does have a nice video up. If you look under Fairy Bliss, spelled FAERYBLYSS, she did a video for the campaign. If you just type in "I need Dave Sim to buy me boobs," that video will pop up.
I think I saw that actually. Yeah. You had that on Facebook, I think, right? Or was it?
I did, yeah. I embedded it into the campaign, actually.
Or maybe I saw it through the Cerberus Yahoo group, I think.
I've never actually looked at the Yahoo group.
I get emails all the time from it, so.
Margaret may have put it up there.
Oh, maybe Margaret did. I know someone.
Cerberus fangirl, Margaret Lees.
Yeah. I love Margaret. She's such a cool person. I spent a weekend
even
at
though
her
she's a
place
Boston
in
fan.
Boston. I spent a weekend with her up at the Boston Con. Stayed at her apartment, which is ridiculous. That's insane. I mean,
Cerberus Museum.
yeah. If an accident had happened and I was around, I mean, there's some good stuff there.
Well, we should probably wrap it up. My flip cam already died. Hopefully, it actually saved the
did it?
video.
Okay.
All right.
Do you want to do like the last pitch for the Kickstarter thing there, John?
Yes. Go to Kickstarter.com. Dave Sims Cerberus, one of the most important comics in the medium in the history of comics.
Yeah, absolutely.
Support it. Yes, and I'm not just saying that because I'm a fan, but because I'm an objective, person that just likes to read good things, and Cerberus is on the top of the list. Support it. If you support it, you will be rewarded.
Yeah, I'm at the moment. I haven't.
Yeah, I know.
Yet,
I know.
But I'm debating whether or not to go for that Eastman, or is it Laird or Eastman? The Ninja Turtles.
Kevin Eastman is doing. Look.
And Bob Burton too. Is it the? I keep seeing that. I'm like, oh, do I go for that one or do I?
Okay.
What do I?
Bob Burton's out. That's going to be on a different one.
Okay.
It's Kevin Eastman's Turtles and Dave Sims' Unknown Turtle Matisse. And
I love that. It's brilliant.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
Yeah. It was just kind of a stroke of genius. Dave came up with that one. He called me up and he said, "Hey, I spoke with Kevin." I said, "Yeah, duh."
Oh yeah,
yeah.
So yeah, pitch it in there. Pledge money. Money helps us give you what you want.
Yeah.
And my girlfriend.
I'm the most indecisive person when it comes to shopping, so I'm still.
Buy all the packages.
Which one do I want? 10,000. 10,000.
Yeah. I know mine's going to go in on the last day where I check my wallet. It's like, how much can I go? Okay, I'm going all in.
Oh yeah.
There is one guy that is trying to crowdfund Source to get the $10,000 package.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Where does he live?
I don't know.
lives in
I don't know where he lives, Blair.
Start a Kickstarter campaign for the $10,000 one, and then I'll pitch it. Crowdsource. Kickstart the Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Are you guys going to Heroes Con?
No, we won't be. No.
30th anniversary. I mean, I know
Is
you
it?
guys are up there in the tundra, but you should come down for it.
I know.
Where's that?
Charlotte, North Carolina.
North Carolina. That is one that we were looking at, or I was looking at a little while ago. It seems like a pretty good one.
It's fantastic. Shelton Drum always puts on a really good show.
Yeah.
So
We're
what's the date?
We're trying to get new
the date offhand.
It's June 22nd to the 24th.
Oh, that's just coming up.
Yeah.
Maybe next year. Well, we'll have to.
Yeah, we gotta. Yeah.
We'll see what our wallet's can afford.
Yeah, I understand.
Spygate number 3, faucet number 6.
I have to have a garage sale to get down there. So.
Yeah.
That sounds good. All right, we should wrap this one up then.
Okay.
So,
thanks a lot, John. That was a lot of fun.
Thank you, Blair. Thank you, Mike. I had a really good time talking to you guys, and look forward to any further discussion. You know what? This is fun. I like them, so look forward to whatever we got in the future.
Sounds
excellent.
Good. Good luck with everything.
Okay, you guys too.
All right. Kitchen Bros out.
Take care, man.
Bye.